We've got just about a full slate of SEC football coming up here in week 9, with just a few teams, 2 teams in particular, that are on the sideline as the SEC race comes down the home stretch here as we get just a day closer to November. Let's start out our lineup here. We got David Waters from Gators Breakdown here to join the show as we get kicked off tonight. David, how you doing?
Good, Mark. How about you?
Good to see you. Good to see you. I didn't have your sound up, but we're
got me now.
That was all my fault. Couldn't hear you, but very good. Very good. Missouri, Florida. All right. The boys are back in the field just about a couple days ago, right? They just made it back to practice, right?
Yep. Monday afternoon, evening, they had their first practice in 2 weeks, Mark. So Saturday will mark 3 weeks since they've played a game against Texas A&M. So who knows what Florida team will get on Saturday? Who knows who will be out there, Mark? Because look, when you've had over 30 players test positive for COVID in the month of October, a lot the last couple of weeks, you have to wonder just who's going to be available. Just in that number, there has to be position groups that got hit hard. So if it's a group of offensive linemen, if it's a group of defensive linemen, how's that group going to hold up in the trenches come fourth quarter when they haven't played in 2 weeks and they have post-COVID symptoms and things like that, or say a secondary group who Florida's defense and defensive backs have been much maligned this season. So if you got to go look, a lot of fans want to see a youth movement anyway. So just because it's a bad play, you might get it just because we don't know who's going to be available. So, it does beg the question, with all the numbers that Florida had in positive tests for COVID, just who's going to be out there on Saturday?
Yeah, and this Missouri passing attack is not necessarily a joke. They held the ball for 43 minutes against Kentucky in that 20-10 win. That would seem to be a pretty decent strategy against Kyle Trask and company.
Yeah, that has to be the game plan. But, Mark, look at their last 2 games. They've won in both styles. They went and had a shootout style with LSU and came out on top of that. And then they played Kentucky football and beat Kentucky at their own game last week. Mark, I was watching that game just because, Florida was playing Missouri coming up this week. So, of course, wanted to take a look at what Missouri's doing. I'm watching that game, and they had a 9.5-minute drive to start the third quarter. They didn't score. But, after a 9.5-minute drive, they basically they showed they could control the game and beat Kentucky at their own game there. So it's a 20-10 win. It probably wasn't even really that close. Missouri, like I said, controlled the whole game versus Kentucky there. So the last 2 games, they said, they've shown they can win in 2 styles. But, Mark, I agree with you. You're playing a high-flying Florida offense. And if Florida's offense has anywhere near the normal players that we've seen them have the first 3 games, you would expect them, even with a layoff, to go out there and score at least 30, 35 points. So the game plan for Missouri probably has to be to have some ball control, long drives, keep Kyle Trask, Kyle Pitts, Kadarius Toney on the sideline, because that's what hurt Florida the last couple games in particular, especially in the second half. They just haven't gotten the ball. They've run about just over 50 plays in each of the last 2 games. And, not necessarily a whole problem against South Carolina, but it was a problem against a better team like Texas A&M. And the way Missouri's playing right now, you would have to say that has to be their game plan, and it probably keeps them in the game a bit. Because like I said, going back to my original point, if this is a close game and it's a knockdown, drag-out style game, an old SEC style game, you have to wonder the numbers Florida has that they're going to be playing with Saturday. Can they hold up for 4 quarters?
Yeah, Larry Roundtree would be at the center of that ball control approach, a very solid back who's ranks high in the Missouri standings all-time in rushing yardage and so forth at 4.6 yards per carry this year. Connor Baslick pulling the trigger on offense, 71% completion percentage. So Todd Grantham. So there's been, as we had you on last week, there was, thought that, well, if there's any positive going on here, it's that there's exhaustive time to pour over the game films. So has there been any discussion, whether it's leaked out during a news conference or just speculation among media types like yourself, of any personnel changes on defense, increased playing time for some, less for others, or a wrinkle in the scheme to kind of combat what's been going on?
Yeah, Mark. Mullen mentioned it right after the game against Texas A&M that they were going to definitely have to sit down and identify what the issues were. Are they having the right players out there in the right position? And I know for a fact they met that Sunday for a long while after the Texas A&M game. That Monday a bit too before the program had to get shut down that Monday evening for all the positive COVID tests. And then extend that to the last 2 weeks where they couldn't do anything but meet, couldn't do anything but watch film. And all the meetings were virtual, of course, because, as I said, the football operations were shut down. So everything had to be virtual. But you have to think that they sat and identified why are we, at linebacker, you have Amari Burney and Mahmoud Diabate. Amari Burney's this is his third year in the program. You're still trying to find a spot for him. He's still struggling out there. He's not a true linebacker. We know that. We know that 3 games in right now that he's not a linebacker out there that you can count on play in and play out. Mahmoud Diabate, his best position is not linebacker. He's a better rusher off the end. So Mark, and they're going to get a little bit of help this week. Kyrie Campbell tweeted out that he's back and ready to play. He hasn't played a down for Florida this year. And I don't want to give him too much credit. I don't say he's all SEC, all American type, but what he does allow is Florida in that defensive front to play in a little more natural position. So Kyrie Campbell's going to be there in the middle, playing defensive tackle, helping out to Darryl Slayton, helping out Gervon Dexter, where it's just not those 2 guys over and over again. Zachary Carter, who's had to play some defensive tackle as well. Well, now you can shift him to play his more natural defensive end position, and where he's excelled when he's been in that position this year. And now it allows pass rush specialist Brenton Cox to not have to play defensive end, and he can stand up and rush the passer now. So, Campbell, look, he's played 2 years of SEC. He started 2 years for Florida right there in the middle. He has a lot of experience, but he's also helping everybody else play in their more natural spots. So, the things to identify, I think they get a little simplistic maybe in some of the calls. They've had some trouble getting lined up even before the snap. Communication's been an issue. So, I do look for some simpler play calls. And get the person and try some personnel, try some different personnel, because right now, what do you have to lose? It has been awful in games 1, 2, and 3. You don't know who's going to be out there on Saturday. You may see new personnel just because you absolutely have to anyway, just because of numbers and given the COVID test the last couple of weeks. So we'll see a different defense out there for Florida. I don't know what we're going to get out of it.
Jeremiah Williams can't help this year, but he certainly could in 21 and beyond. He just committed a few hours to Florida, 5th-rated defensive end in the country, 5th-rated player in Alabama, top 100 player regardless of position, according to the 247 Sports Composite out of Birmingham. So obviously headed out of state there to grab a top-level player.
Yeah, Mark, Florida's been in the running for that one a little bit. He visited Florida in the spring and was ready to commit to Florida right there. That was before everything was shut down. He held off, and then it looked like he was going to commit to Florida sometime over the summer. Auburn kind of got wind of that. He had some second thoughts there, but when it all came down to the end, it just kind of seemed like he loved Christian Robinson, the linebacker coach at Florida, and just the relationship he had with the Gators. Committed to Florida back on October 26th, so just a couple days ago. And then Florida just got some really, really, really good news for the next class, the 2022 class. Sam McCall from Lakeland, the pipeline city for Florida. 5-star prospect for the class of 2022. So look, I know it's hard to get excited for recruits that are still 2 cycles away, but at least Florida's off to a good start, because if there's been one knock on Dan Mullen and his recruiting early on, it's where are the top in-state guys? Where are they going? Why are they going to Alabama? Why are they going to Georgia? Why are they going to Ohio State? Well, right now you got, and Sam McCall, the 30th ranked player overall in the country for the 2022 class, and the state of Florida's 5th ranked prospect. So big recruiting news for the Gators this week, Mark.
Great to see everybody in the chat. We got David Waters on the line for a few more minutes from Gators Breakdown. Kyle Trask hasn't done anything wrong or different. He's just been off the radar for a few weeks, but he was the first one out of the gate that it was like, there's your Heisman front runner right there when he started firing against Ole Miss. But that's kind of been, again, with the emergence of Mac Jones and Justin Fields back on the field as well. I know Gator fans want to worry about wins and losses, and I do as well. I'm usually not into that, but at the same time, Kyle Trask can get back at it in regards to a Heisman run.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much sure he's going to play. He met with the media on Tuesday, and there was a lot of question, of course, who's going to play, and then you probably can get a good indication if they're meeting with the media this week. They're probably going to play. So Kyle Trask, all good to go, no worries there to play Saturday, and it'd be good to see him out there. Now Florida is playing just because of all the schedule shuffling and all that kind of stuff. They are kind of they've been, I won't say ridiculed, but they've been shifted to the SEC network alternate channel. So, a lot of people may not get it out there. If you live in the Southeast, you probably do get it in some form or fashion. It may be in the SD version, but you probably get it. But, so it won't be a national spotlight this week for Kyle Trask. But, of course, if he goes out there and has a day, once again, throwing for 300, 400 yards, another 3-4 touchdown performance. Of course, it's going to get noticed no matter what channel Florida's on, and all the post-game highlights and all that. But Mark, you do have to wonder what the layoff will be, and I've cautioned Gator fans from just we don't really know what's going to happen here. But go look at what Kyle Trask has been through in his career. He comes off the bench last year versus Kentucky. Hasn't played in Lord knows how long. In a role like that, and comes out and leads Florida to, 2-3 straight scores to come back and beat Kentucky when he hadn't played hardly at all. And then this year to start the season against Ole Miss, to come out firing, and they've scored on every first possession of every game so far. And look, the layoff from the first game this season was you didn't play till the last game of the Orange Bowl in December, and the offense comes out humming through COVID, through all that stuff. So I think it's a pretty good indication. You pretty much know what you're going to get with Kyle Trask. It may take a little bit longer this game. If Florida doesn't score in the first position, I'm not worried. They'll figure it out on offense as long as most of the pieces are there.
The Georgia game obviously coming in a few weeks. I got to think that Gator Nation has some opinion about some of the issues there in Athens over the quarterback job.
Maybe, Mark, but until Florida does something in that game and Todd Grantham does something in that game, Florida fans can talk all they want to, but they got to go prove it there. It hasn't been pretty the last couple of years. Now, look, I mean, it was a close game last year and all that, and but Georgia was able to stay on the field because Todd Grantham couldn't get them off the field on third down. So it's Missouri first, but of course, as soon as that game's over with, Florida's going to start on Sunday, preparing for Georgia and have a practice on Sunday. Part of that's because, the NCAA has mandated that Tuesday be a day off so players can go vote and all that. So Florida's going to start their preparation for Georgia on Sunday. But yeah, Mark, right now, just because of everything Florida's going through with COVID and being the first game back and all that, I'm looking at it in the view of, hey, you go out there and beat Missouri any way possible. It doesn't matter if it's a 1-point win. Try and get everybody back for the Georgia game. And of course, I'm saying the obvious here. You throw everything at that game. That's the game that's going to make or break your season at this point. That's the game you circled before the season's even started. It's the game that many fans circle anyway just because of who it is. No matter the expectations for Florida. So, of course, yeah, you go and look at that. But, Mark, right now, Jake Fromm didn't have the best year last year, still found a way to beat Florida. Was 2 years ago, you had a chance, and Jake Fromm just goes out there and picks you apart. So until Todd Grantham goes into that game and walks out a winner and plays better on defense, I don't see where a lot of the confidence can come from.
All right, everyone, whether your thing is to watch or to listen, audio podcast, go to your favorite platform. You look up Gators Breakdown. You stay here on YouTube. You look up Gators Breakdown. Either way, check out David's work each and every week covering Florida football. 13.5-point favorite in the Swamp this weekend against Missouri. David, we appreciate you stopping by to break down the Gators.
Thanks, Mark.
As we continue here at SEC Live, this is our third edition. And so based on your feedback, we decided to launch an SEC show, and we're here every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Just in the books would be our Florida State Seminoles live show that we bring your way every Wednesday night at 6 Eastern Time. And then earlier today, Ohio State Buckeyes live at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Check out those discussions as well. And let's highlight the games in the SEC with a number of guests coming up here soon. I'll also check out your comments in the live chat. We've got 5 more guests that cover SEC football coming your way. So we also have a Texas A&M game hosting Arkansas. That's at Kyle Field for the first time in quite a few years. That's been at Jerry's World, of course, hosting that rivalry that the SEC has put together. In the 8 years that Texas A&M has joined the SEC, they have downed Arkansas 8 consecutive times, but 5 of the last 6 by less than a touchdown, despite being an enormous favorite in those games. We were joined by TexAgs.com this afternoon. That video is going to be posted early tomorrow morning. It was a tremendous discussion there with Aaliyah Musgrave from TexAgs.com on Texas A&M. And, of course, they just have the one loss to Alabama, and they look to possibly be a favorite the rest of the way with LSU and Auburn down in the SEC Western Division. Also, of course, we've got Mississippi State taking on Alabama. We're going to be hearing from Stephen M. Smith of TouchdownAlabama.com a little bit later on that game. Ole Miss and Vandy. And we've got LSU and Auburn. We'll be posting both the LSU and the Auburn perspective on that in the next day or so here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Georgia at Kentucky. The Dogs a 14.5-point favorite there. Also got our guy Brent Beard on the line from First Coast News and College Sports Today. Brent, it's good to see you for your weekly visit.
Good to see you. Hope you're doing well as we enter another very interesting week in the conference, right, Mark?
You know it. So let's go back a few days before we spring ahead and preview the weekend. What caught your eye last weekend?
It was a abbreviated schedule.
Yep.
Frankly, but certainly Bama looked the part against Tennessee. Tennessee's, I think, still improved, but it's still going to be a couple of years before they can really be able to face the Giants in the Eastern Division. But we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Should Jeremy Pruitt have said they really closed the gap with Alabama after the game? Probably not. When they do that will be when they give the when they're able to get the score a bit closer to at that point. So I think Missouri keeps rolling along. I give them a lot of credit with what they've been able to do so far with Larry Roundtree and Connor Basilak and Nick Bolton, who really can't be blocked at this point. So, and they've got a very intriguing game with the Gators, who are kind of tired of hanging around. They're ready to play, to say the least, at this point. And boy, you can't ignore what TJ Finley did at LSU against South Carolina. Finley, who probably could be Mark, a defensive end or a tight end at 6'6", 240. And listen, that may be conservative. So it was an abbreviated weekend, but it was still a good one.
Yeah, South Carolina and Vanderbilt are on the sideline this weekend. The Gamecocks with a disappointing showing in Death Valley. That was a game, despite them being a 7-point underdog, that a lot of people circled as even a probable upset. Based on the way South Carolina played the week before against Auburn, and LSU struggling on defense. But the Tigers got healthy pretty early in that game and led by 2 to 3 scores throughout.
Yeah, and frankly, it looked very good in a lot of ways. I mean, unfortunately for LSU losing Rosenthal on the offensive line this week is certainly disappointing. They're hoping Cam Wire, who's one of the great college football names, in my opinion, will be able to come through. Terrence Marshall, I'm not sure anybody on the planet can cover him right now. Do you, Mark? The way he's playing, 21 catches, at this point too. I think they ran the ball pretty well. Emory, I think, has gotten some folks' attention. I mean, look, are they as good as they were last year? Of course, they're not. They lost too many players in order for that to happen. But I can tell you the winner of this game this week with Auburn, frankly, is going to get a lot of momentum. And again, we thought Auburn-Ole Miss last week would be a shootout too. Unfortunately, we have the controversy that goes along with it at this point. That is very unfortunate. And I will say this real quick about that is, look, Mark, if you've got the technology and you've got the personnel and you've got the funds in order to have a central officiating situation in Birmingham, and you're not using it and or not using it correctly, that's on the SEC. They've got to get that situation straightened out. Look, it really does. And I don't think this is the league's favoring Auburn. Auburn just so happened to be in the middle of three of these things that's happened at this point against Kentucky, Arkansas, and also last week against Ole Miss. But the kickoff situation here, and Mark, the league can say that they looked at this. I don't think that they did. Is the real problem on the kickoff situation, because look, even Auburn people would tell you that they thought it touched his finger and started rolling in the other direction, and then he goes and tries to fall on the ball. So, but my thing with this is, if you got the resources this league does, quit trying to cover up for your officials. Just get the call right. If it goes to Auburn or if it goes to Ole Miss, it really doesn't matter. They just spent the appropriate time in trying to look at this. And the other thing is, instead of finding your coaches and punishing them, as a lot of people tweeted, that they wondered if the replay official should have been fined instead of Lane Kiffin in this situation. But look, I remember, like you did, we had a big deal in SEC media days about how this new central officiating situation was going to benefit everybody, and that it would help us get closer to being accurate. That simply just not happened. Look, if you're not going to use it, that is a real problem. So that's something the league has got to clean up. And I'm telling you, there are two things this league values more than anything else. Number one is its money. Number two is its image. And this officiating situation is hurting its image. So the quicker that can be fixed to be fair for everybody, the better it's going to be.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We got Brent Baird on the line, First Coast News, College Sports Today. Of course, this is our SEC live show that we launched just a couple of weeks ago to bring you the news and notes, the previews of the weekend of what I consider at least to be the best football playing conference in college football. We'll never know until we get to a college football playoff this year, because we've got no non-conference games, and it makes for quite the comparisons that are going to be made as we get close to the selection time, which is coming up in a few weeks, the release of the first rankings. Before we get to that, between Malzahn and I mentioned South Carolina's disappointing performance coming off the Auburn win, do you believe that basically every coach in the league is going to be given some type of pass for COVID 2020 versus do you believe that there could be some coaches exiting? And I would think that Will Muschamp and Gus Malzahn would be the two that would be on the hot seat.
Yeah, I think so. I think they both stay too, and I think they both stay for this reason: is Gus Malzahn has a $21.5 million buyout. Now, I know Auburn has deep pockets in their boosters, but the reality is, if you're going to pay Malzahn off, and then you've got to go out and get another coach at this point and add that money on top of it, I think he's safe. I think the Auburn beat writers pretty well think he's safe at this point. Now, they're still an average football team. They've got LSU, A&M, and Bama. And I think they'll lose 2 out of 3, and Malzahn will have his 4 losses per year that he's averaged over the last several years. And frankly, I think Muschamp's safe too. And I give them credit. and I do Auburn too. Auburn played better against Ole Miss. You have to give them credit for that, regardless of the debacle on the kickoff. Tank Bigsby is one of the better players in the league right now as a freshman, and Bo Nix played a lot more within himself at this point. And look, if you're Bo Nix, the big thing you got to do is throw the ball to Seth Williams. Find out wherever he is and throw the ball. And a lot of guys, it's a 50-50 ball. With Seth Williams, it's more of a 70-30 ball in it, Mark. But I think the Muschamp thing is his buyout is now down to $13 million a year. And South Carolina fans are not happy. But to their credit, particularly offensively, I think they believe Mike Bobo has come in and been a plus for them. Colin Hill has been okay. He came in with Bobo from Colorado State. I think they're able to run the ball better than they have. And Shi Smith has had probably the best year of his career at this point too. But Mark, I just don't think Ray Tanner wants to fire him at this point. So I think because of COVID, a lot of guys will, and it'd be interesting if Derek Mason does too at Vanderbilt, and I think he probably will at this point. So I think right now that they will be given a mulligan, but for all the guys mentioned, the leash could be very short next year.
We recorded an Auburn segment this afternoon with Jamie from Preps Nation, and he was talking about the handling of the Bo Nix within the Auburn offense. He really liked what they did with him and playing to his strengths, and I made a comment similar to what you just said in regards to, but when the game was online, forget the X's and O's, just hang one up to Seth Williams, and you got a good chance of pulling things out.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, Seth Williams is a tremendous player, to say the least. So, and obviously the week prior against South Carolina, they really struggled. Seth Williams and Bo Nix got into it on the sidelines. That happens. It just got caught on the camera. It is a lot of what happened in that situation. Big Cat Bryant being back on defense, I think, helped them too. But yet their defense can be pretty susceptible. But again, Auburn's really benefited from these officials' calls. I mean, we have to call it the way it is. The Kentucky running back was in the end zone, probably a yard in the end zone, and they said he was down. A lot of people were that was very curious why they didn't review that one. And then we know about the situation with Bo Nix in the Arkansas game, and then obviously last week. Bo Nix is still a very good quarterback in a lot of ways when he plays within himself. But Bo's problem, Mark, again, and I think this has been well chronicled, is when Bo gets outside the pocket, he reminds me of what Jalen Hurts used to do in Alabama. Is he cuts off half the field and is only getting a small window. And there are just times when Bo will run out of bounds for no apparent reason. But when Bo is on, he can be very good. There's times to where he's very average, but still, and you alluded to this, when you got Tank Bigsby, who's going over 100 yards for 3 games in a row, and then you got Seth Williams, that makes your quarterback look much better, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You need those other guys, and that's why I hate when certain fans and media outlets throw out quarterback records like these guys are playing tennis matches or boxing matches.
Right.
It's a bit ridiculous. We're talking SEC football as we do here each and every week, so we bring on the best beat writers and broadcasters and so forth for each team. Brent pretty much scans the conference for us as we get you set for this weekend. And I alluded to the college football playoff, and people love scenarios, and obviously the coaches have to be focused on week to week, but we're in the media. We can talk about all sorts of crazy stuff. And there's a team that plays in the Western Division in the state of Texas that may have a path to a college football playoff. Now, they've got some difficult games, of course, but Auburn isn't what they've been in the past, and LSU is certainly not what they were last year. And I'm not looking past anyone in no such way. But again, we can look past whomever and create these scenarios. But Texas A&M's got the one loss to Alabama, and they might just be favored in the rest of their games as they are this weekend against Arkansas at 12.5 points at home in what is typically a neutral site game. This Texas A&M team may have something to say this year.
Well, they really might. Now, the game next year is going back to Jerry's World. I'm not sure if the Arkansas fans had a vote on that, Mark, if they would necessarily agree with that after going to A&M this year. They want a little bit of equal time to have A&M in Fayetteville. These two fan bases do not like each other one iota, and the Aggies have really had the upper hand, certainly in this series. A&M's had 7 turnovers in 4 games. Kellen Mond's the number 8 rated quarterback in the league. Felipe Franks is number 9. I'll tell you what, Mark, are you as impressed with Isaiah Spiller as I am? Spiller's really come up and been impressive. Jalen Watermeyer is at tight end. Man, they've always got a tight end, don't they? It's just amazing what Jimbo can do with tight ends, particularly when he throws to them. He didn't do that at Florida State, but he's doing it at A&M. But you're right. I mean, Mike Elko's defense at A&M, and you're right. They conceivably could run the table, but look, here is my, and Georgia fans would tell you the same thing. My concern with Jimbo is, and there's no other way to put it than this, Jimbo just has a real stinker at some point during the year, Mark, and you kind of really wonder when that's coming, when they just have this inexplicable performance and they lose. So this Arkansas game, I think, is incredibly important for them. And look, Arkansas can beat them. Arkansas has really played well. Arkansas has got one of the top 3 defenses in the league. So, look, this may be Mark, is this important game for A&M to be able to win and launch themselves forward is anything that they have got coming up at this point. So, and I've just been particularly amazed with what Barry Odom has done with the Arkansas defense. I mean, they've got Grant Morgan, Hudson Clark, and look, these guys are basically walk-ons. Hudson Clark making 3 interceptions in the game. I don't care if it's against the neighborhood kids. That's still pretty impressive in order to do so. And by the way, he's going to be given a scholarship at the end of the year. Bumper Poole, I think, is supposed to be back. He's been banged up a little bit. So, Mark, would it be safe to say the Aggies don't need to look past the Hogs this week, right?
Well, I was just scanning my memory banks, Brent. The best I could do against the neighborhood kids was 2 picks. Now, I did that a number of times, but I could just never get that hat trick and get the third interception against those guys.
Absolutely.
But, that's difficult to do. And when you get handed the ball 6 or 7 times, it's tough not to win. But at the same time, what's going on at Arkansas is near amazing. This turnaround, I'm not going to quite liken it to what I consider to be the greatest turnaround in the history of college football. And every time I state this, I ask for anybody out there to serve up a better example. And that would be the roller coaster that Auburn was between 2010 and 2013, win a national championship, 2 years later go winless in the conference and go 3-9. The next year come within 7 seconds of winning a national championship again. To go from winless in the conference to the BCS championship game, I don't know that we've ever seen anything like that. I can't come up with that type of rags to riches.
Well, and that's kind of typical of Auburn. And I think the beat writers are looking at next year for Auburn as being, again, one of those really good years that they have every 3 to 4 years. That the talent coming back, Bigsby another year, Nix in his 3rd year, you got to think would be making better decisions at that point than he is now. In the defense, will have had a year to grow up. So I think that's a pretty good analogy with that. But Mark, look, what the thing that Sam Pittman has done is, I mean, he's taken Chad Morris's players basically and been able to give them some confidence and for them to be able to win some games as they have early on. And I'll be honest with you, if they beat A&M, I know people will look at it this way, but Mark, could you say this that much of an upset? But because of the way that they have played at this point, and look, Felipe Franks has kind of found themselves in that offense. Traylon Smith is done well at running back. Rakeem Boyd is really not even. This is the thing that amazes me about this offense is Boyd has not even played as much as we thought he would at this point. He's one of the better running backs in the league. With Sam Pittman, the offensive line is going to be better with the job that he did at Georgia at this point. Arkansas leads the nation with 10 interceptions. I mean, you would be amazed to think that Arkansas could lead the nation with anything going into this year, but they do. And again, obviously, they got a bunch in one game early on, and we understand that. But I'm with you. And look, if I had to cast a Coach of the Year ballot at this point, I'd have to think about it because Eli Drinkwith maybe shooting up the ladder pretty quick. But I think Sam Pittman would get a lot of votes, wouldn't he, Mark?
Arkansas has been a mess for the last 3 years leading
Really
into the
have.
season, and they have kept this game against Texas A&M within a touchdown 5 of the last 6 years. So they always play them tough, and on top of this, they're playing much better football than they have since 2016.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting story at Arkansas. I love to see the Hogs coming back. For old timers like you and I, we remember when Arkansas was respected, was in the Southwest Conference,
absolutely,
was a national power for strands of years. They were certainly a factor. So I love to see the Hogs back in it and people talking Arkansas football. It's really good. Before we bring in our Georgia guy, since we've got our guy Uncle Lou in the chat. He's a huge Georgia and college football YouTuber. We've got Palmer Toms coming up from 247 Sports, Georgia. We got to get your take on this Georgia quarterback situation.
Well, I think at this point they have got they like Stetson Bennett, and will Stetson Bennett be the quarterback in the next few games? And again, the importance of Saturday is that to me it's a tune-up before they come here in Jacksonville to play Florida. Mark, this is the first time in memory that Florida – now think about this a minute. Florida and Georgia will play this weekend. That's the first time in memory that they have not both had an off week before that game. So how will that do? Now, frankly, I think both teams need to play Saturday. Gosh, there's no question Florida does after – having the sabbatical that they've had, shall we say. But I think as far as the Georgia situation, now Dwayne Mathis, I think, is still listed maybe as their backup. But everybody wants to know at this point about where they're going at quarterback. Will JT have a chance to be able to come and play I understand the brace is off, which is certainly a help as I look at that. But is he ready to go? His knee has been stiff, and they've got it. They can't leave him out there as a statue, and for him to get run over by SEC defenses at this point. So it's going to be very important for them to be able to allow JT Daniel a chance to gradually come in. Kentucky right now. It looks like that they've got a change in quarterback because of an injury situation. Joey Gatewood, who ironically enough is from Jacksonville, played at Bartram Trail. He was at Auburn, and then he transferred to Kentucky. Looks like he's going to be the starter. But the truth of the matter is Gatewood, in fairness, has not played much more than a lot of these other quarterbacks have, Mark. So I'll be interested to see what he does against the Georgia defense. Kentucky's offense has struggled mightily, frankly, and also the defense I think has been good. So right now, I think obviously they'll go with Stetson Bennett. He has the most experience for this year, and I will be very interested, more than interested, to see where they go. They'll get a comfortable lead in that game, and how that works out. At this point, too, frankly, one of the most amazing stats, and I love to throw stuff in here before I leave. last year or last week, Missouri had 92 plays. Kentucky had 36. Now, one of the best lines I've seen all week is even Shakespeare had 37 plays compared to 36. You can use outline, Mark, if you wish. But Mark, do you remember an SEC game in a long time where a team only had 36 plays?
I can't, but yeah, that line, I appreciate the license for that. I can take all the help I can get.
To be or not to be, right, Mark?
Yes, trying to narrate these games. That's good stuff. Our guy Brent Beard, who always delivers here, gives me some material as well as what he does online. He delivers me some and other media types tons of information each and every day. We appreciate that, Brent. You can catch him on First Coast News and College Sports Today. Brent, we appreciate you stopping by as always.
I love it. Can't wait for this weekend, Mark. Glad you're here with us, doing a great job as always, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, talking up the SEC. Another big weekend with only two teams on the sidelines. That would be South Carolina and Vanderbilt. We've got Georgia headed to Lexington to take on the Cats as a 14.5-point favorite. We've got Palmer Thomas on the line from Dogs 247 Sports to talk it up. Palmer, how we doing tonight?
Mark, unfortunately, I'm not going to bring you any Shakespeare facts like Brent did, but I will tell you 2012 was the last time that Florida and Georgia did not have a bye before their annual meeting in Jacksonville. So I can bring you that fact.
That's more in line with the type of facts that we typically either get or give here. The Shakespeare, I will certainly I'll tuck that one away when I can go to it. That's a good thing. So if Kentucky only runs 36 plays against Georgia this week, I think they're going to lose by more than 20-10. The Dogs went up there 2 years ago when Kentucky felt like they were ready to take on a Georgia team to win the SEC East, and that Kentucky team was really good, had like a top 5 to 10 defense in the nation, but just not enough talent on both sides of the ball to get it done as Georgia ran away from them. And of course, they won what I remember to be a rain-soaked game in Athens last year against Kentucky. So what kind of mood is this football team in following that Alabama game?
Yeah, those are very accurate descriptions of the last two games between Georgia and Kentucky. As you said, Georgia ran away with that one in 2018, had two different guys rush for over 100 yards, DeAndre Swift and Elijah Holyfield. And absolutely last year was rain-soaked. Luckily, I was in the press box for that one. So, but, this one, I think this team is ready coming off of a bye week. I think they're anxious to show that, that second half performance against Alabama isn't exactly what this team is. And I think they're certainly ready to show that the first half is more indicative of what this team is and what they can be. I think that there's absolutely a awareness that if Georgia handles their business, it's all, very likely that those two teams will meet again in Atlanta. And we've seen that happen before with Georgia in the past. 2017 season, they go on the road, get stomped by Auburn late in November. Georgia was number one at the time, ends up getting beat down by the Tigers. And I think the narrative coming out of that game was there's no way that Georgia would beat Auburn in a rematch. Auburn ends up handling their business, beats Alabama, makes their way to Atlanta. Georgia makes their way to Atlanta, and the rest was history for the Bulldogs. They take care of business. They win the SEC championship over the Tigers, head to the Rose Bowl and beat Oklahoma there, and come up just short in the national championship game. So it's been done before by this Georgia team, by Kirby Smart-led Georgia team. And I think that there's hope that this team can do it again. There's definitely an excitement in this locker room to get back on the field. And, I think that they're anxious to show that what they did against Alabama isn't fully indicative of this team.
So what I saw for more than a half were possibly the two best teams in the country going at it, and Ohio State fans and Clemson fans are going to come after me. I said possibly the two best teams in the country when you know they're in that 2 or 4 range. And then, of course, it started to slip away from Georgia in the second half. And I'm going to hope to say this for the final time because I hate to lay a game at the feet of one person. And I don't think that one person loses any game. At the same time, it was difficult for me to find any other enormous flaws in that second half performance from Georgia. You could look at the defense once the points started to pile on, but I think a lot of that had to do with staying on the field, of course. That always affects the defense, especially trying to keep up with that track meet that's at Alabama. And Stetson Bennett, I think the final touchdown drive of the first half showed us a foreshadowing of things to come in the second half, in which he finally completed the touchdown pass on third down. The first and second downs, he had a guy open in the end zone and missed him both times. And the second one was like airmailed through the end zone. Just the performance against Alabama. And then once they got down by 1 or 2 scores, I remember a few passes, the one in which he was rolling toward the sideline and he tried to throw it back across his body and thought he was John Elway, and it just wasn't going to get there. And it was just a ill-conceived throw. Just in regards to the Stetson Bennett issue of him being a serviceable quarterback, but this team wanting to win a championship and having the personnel otherwise to do so. Just your thoughts about that and whether Kirby Smart needs to pull the trigger.
Yeah, I'm with you. I really hate to be that guy to put a game on one guy. And, I think a lot of people are doing that with that Alabama loss and Stetson Bennett. Like you said, the second half was a struggle for him. But I think anytime Stetson Bennett is going to throw the ball 40 times, it's not a recipe for Georgia winning. And obviously, that's a factor of them trailing in the second half, them having to make some plays. And I think, you look at that interception you mentioned where he was rolling out to the sideline, that certainly was indicative of, him trying to make a play. You say John Elway, I say Joe Burrow. I think about that Burrow play in the SEC championship where he escaped the pressure. Bennett just escaped the pressure and, tried to throw across his body across the middle of the field. And, he'll be the first to admit it. He said after the game, that was a stupid throw. That was a dumb play. He said, I've known that since I was 5 years old. You can't throw the ball across the middle of the defense like that. And so, I think he knows that he didn't play his best. And that a lot of the pressure in that game, a lot of the blame is going to fall on him. But like you said, I don't think it was all on him. I think, like you mentioned, the defense struggled in that second half. I think, you look at the defensive performance, I think a lot of it goes to the combination of the secondary not being able to hang with those Alabama wide receivers and the Georgia defensive line not being able to get to Mac Jones. I think, those two kind of feed off of each other. If you can get to the quarterback, your DBs don't have to defend as long. And if your DBs are playing great in coverage, that quarterback's got to stay back there longer, allowing the defensive line more time. Neither of those were great for Georgia in that matchup. And I think it showed, especially in that second half. I think in terms of Stetson Bennett going forward, Kirby Smart has said Stetson Bennett is our quarterback. Stetson Bennett is our guy. And I believe that. I think, like several people have mentioned, Georgia has a chance to get up early in this game against Kentucky, and maybe get some reps for JT Daniels. I think, Dwan Mathis has been listed as the second string quarterback since that, second game of the season against Auburn. But I think if you look at the way the practices have gone, Mathis is, still receiving second team reps, but Daniels is getting more and more reps as we speak. I think the bye week was big for that in terms of, development of him and, taking the knee brace off before that Alabama game, the combination of that and the bye week, the timing of that. I think it's a perfect combination for him to continue to progress in this system, continue to get healthier, and continue to build some confidence with this offense. But I do think Stetson Bennett is the guy going forward. I think there's opportunities to see JT Daniels. I think that's, really what a lot of Georgia fans want to, what they desire. I think there's a lot of questions about JT Daniels because nobody's seen him in a Georgia uniform. No one has seen him outside of, really his freshman year at USC. So we're looking at, film from 2 years ago because he played one half of football in 2019. So I think, there's a lot of questions about who is JT Daniels, what can he do post knee surgery, post knee injury, and what can he do in this Georgia offense? And I don't know that those questions will be answered even in garbage time, even if he does get in against Kentucky. But I think in terms of the quarterback competition, Stetson Bennett is going to be the guy. I think there's a lot of confidence in him from this offense, from Kirby Smart, from Todd Monken. And I think that, they'll be the first to say he didn't play well. He'll be the first to say he didn't play well. But, that there were other factors around him that could have helped him out.
Palmer Tom's on the line from Dogs 247 Sports. Please join him and the rest of the staff over there as they cover the Bulldogs. Kentucky's up next in Lexington. Dogs a 14.5-point pick. And then the huge game against Florida the next week in Jacksonville. I'm looking at the top 4 rushing leaders on this Georgia football team, and I'm seeing 4 studs out of high school in White, Milton, McIntosh, and Cook. We know what the Georgia legacy has been at the running back position in recent years. It's been amazing. Man, Alabama's right there. Wisconsin's right there. But I'm going to say it's the best in college football over the last 10 years. In watching these guys run, I know that they were all like top 3 running backs coming out of high school. Do we think that this group's as good as what it's been? And that's holding it to a lofty, lofty standard. But do we think that this group's as good as what the Georgia standard's been with the likes of Gurley and Marshall and on down the line, what we've seen recently?
Yeah, I think if you look at Georgia's running back situation in the last couple of seasons, it has really been a 1-2 punch. You mentioned Gurley and Marshall, Chubb and Michelle, Swift and Holyfield, Swift and Harrion. And like I said, it was really a 1-2 punch. And once you got any deeper than that, it was talented guys that would eventually step up and be that next guy. But, they weren't, a huge factor that season. I think back to 2017 when Swift was a freshman. He made plays. He made a huge play in that 2017 SEC championship game against Auburn, big run to kind of seal the deal there. But he wasn't the guy in terms of the running back room. When people thought Georgia running backs that year, they thought Nick Chubb and Sony Michel. And I think this year, you don't necessarily have those 2 guys. You don't have a 2-headed monster back there, but as you said, you've got 4 guys that are very capable of putting up numbers. I think this is the first time in a long time that I'm not sure we're going to see a 1,000-yard rusher out of Georgia, and I think that's a combination of 10-game regular season and also like I said, there's not really that one guy in this room. They all kind of bring different skill sets to the table. With White being a very downhill bowling ball type guy, he's had his ACL injuries history in the past. And I think that there's some questions about his, lateral movement, his shiftiness. Has he gotten that back from what he was when he was in high school and the number 1 running back in the country that year? I don't know that he has gotten that back entirely, and I don't know that he ever will, but he is still a very serviceable running back for Georgia. Leading the team with 5 touchdowns this year, leading the team in carries and yards as well. And I think, he is that number 1 guy this year, but I don't think he's got the, breakaway speed, the big playability that, you've had in the past with Swift, Michelle, Chubb, Gurley, on down the line. If you look past him, the guy that really excites me the most to see is Kendall Milton when he gets in there. True freshman running back out of California. He was a 4-star coming to Georgia, and he's really run. When he's been in there, he's been a tough tackler. He's been tough to bring down. He's physical. He did fumble the ball late in the game against Auburn, but I think. That has been a concern of his, but I think if you were to ask him and talk to Kirby Smart about the issue, it's something that he's working on. And in the reps that he's gotten against Tennessee and Alabama, he's shown that he's really improved that. He's definitely seen an uptick in reps in terms of, against Tennessee, James Cook was out with a shoulder injury. Against Alabama, Kenny McIntosh was out with a knee injury that he suffered in the first half. Both those guys have been banged up. And so you've seen a lot more of Milton than you might have expected. But I think the way that he has played is going to continue to earn him reps and continue to earn him carries in this offense. I think that there's different ways that they can use all those guys. Like I said, White being the more bowling ball type guy, Milton with a very dynamic skill set, tough to bring down. And then White, he showed it, Cook showed it against Alabama. He had an 80-yard touchdown out of the backfield on a receiving touchdown. I think he's a guy that him and McIntosh, I think McIntosh has shown several times in kick return that he's a dynamic player. Both those guys are capable of being used in different ways than your traditional running back.
Folks, this is what we do all the time, talk college football nonstop at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. I basically sleep in this chair. This is what I do. I just sit here, and then when I get done analyzing and talking, I bring on people like Palmer Tom so that I can take a bit of a break. But we break it down like nobody else. SEC Wednesday night, 8 o'clock Eastern time. So lock that date in, that time. Each and every week, Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern time, we just shuttle through the beat writers for the various SEC teams, and we talk up the coming weekend with Georgia taking on Kentucky this weekend. Anytime you're talking an elite program and you take a shot at a positional unit, that has to be taken into context, like the offensive line's a bit down this year. Oh, well, it's still probably one of the 10 or 12 best in the nation or something like that. That's just an example, not talking specifically about the Georgia offensive line. I will point to the receivers, though. That was a down area, again, relatively speaking, last year. Do we feel better about this group led by Kyrus Jackson's 21 catches this year?
Yeah, I think there's so much more confidence in these receivers than last season. Just in terms of, and come to think of it, that's interesting that people are saying that because they're without one of their top receivers from last year, Dominic Blaylock, who tore his ACL in the SEC championship game against LSU to end last season, suffered and retore that same ACL before fall camps ended this year. And so I think the fact that there's so much confidence in these Georgia receivers without him is interesting. I think that there's definitely more talent on the field. You look at the freshman wide receivers that they brought in, two of whom are making a big difference already in Jermaine Burton, who's started all 4 games so far, and Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint, who's played in all 4 and made an impact. And then I think the growth and development of George Pickens and Kyrus Jackson, for that matter. Jackson is a guy that struggled with some injuries early on in his career. Redshirted his first year on campus as he struggled with an injury, and then last year broke his hand in the season opener against Vanderbilt. He's come on strong, and I think I look at those two together because the attention that Pickens is drawing, in terms of coverage from safeties, being double teamed, whatever. And I think a lot of that is a result of the big performance that he had in the Sugar Bowl against Baylor. 12 catches, had a big touchdown, and over 100 receiving yards. He's drawn a lot of attention early on in this season, and that's opened things up for Kyrus Jackson. I think the combination of Pickens drawing the attention and Stetson Bennett being very willing to throw the ball over the middle of the field, that's been a great combination for Kyrus Jackson. So to answer your question, I think that there's a lot more confidence in these Georgia receivers than there was last year because of the talent of these guys and their ability. And I also think a lot of credit goes to Todd Monken. I think you look at the way that he is, he's got a history in coaching receivers, coaching quarterbacks, coaching offenses. I think the way that he's been able to scheme some things up to get these guys open has been tremendous for Georgia's sake.
Palmer Tom's Dogs 247 Sports. Encourage you to head on over there and check out Palmer's work. He joins us on a regular basis to break down the Dogs. Palmer, we appreciate it. Enjoy the game on Saturday.
Happy to come on and look forward to talking Georgia, Florida next week.
Good stuff from Palmer Toms. We just got a call in from our guy, Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown, Alabama. Stephen can't join us on video, so we're going to go with our high-tech calling system and give Stephen a ring. As we continue here, we've got some LSU coming up in just a second. Steven, hey, it's Mark Rogers TV. How you doing?
Doing good in yourself.
We're doing well. We got Stephen Smith on the line from touchdownalabama.com. So, Stephen, Alabama with the date with Mississippi State, a minor 31-point pick in Tuscaloosa this weekend. But we'll get to the news that obviously was huge coming from the Tennessee game, and that was Jalen Waddle. So unfortunate for that young man, one of the more talented players in the country, more explosive, and just a highlight of himself, in and of himself, just a tremendous player. So what does this wide receiver rotation look like without Jalen Waddle?
Well, first and foremost, Mark, you have to look at who has to be the immediate guy picked to step up, and that guy is none other than Slade Bolden, the three-star from Louisiana, who came in the 2018 class with Jalen Waddle. Slade Bolden was the Gatorade Player of the Year in 2017. From West Monroe High School, he played a number of different positions on both sides of the ball. Coach Saban very confident in his ability. So is Mac Jones, a quarterback, and Slade Bolden, of whom spoke to the media on Tuesday, talked about how he's not Jalen Waddle, but he's going to give this program everything he has. He's a big-time playmaker. Now, he's going to have to handle all of the kick return, punt return duties that Waddle had, as well as play in the slot offensively at receiver, a spot that he was behind Jalen Waddle throughout the last 2 years here. So immediately, the guy forced to step up here is Slade Bolden behind Devontae Smith and John Mechie. After Bolden, keep your eyes on true freshman Javon Baker out of McEachern High School in Powder Springs, Georgia. He came in this 2020 class, four-star athlete, a guy that's about 6'2", a little over 200 pounds now. His junior year at McEachern had 1,105 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns. Coach Saban talked about he's one of the guys that Alabama is targeting and challenging to step up to kind of pick up the slack here from the Waddle injury. If you speak, when I got a chance to speak with teammates about him, a lot of them have been talking about he's got probably some of the best hands on the team. And Jordan Battle, the sophomore safety from South Florida in particular, went as far as to compare Javon Baker to one of Amari Cooper. Now, if Baker has anything close to what Cooper was able to provide his career during his 3 years with the Crimson Tide in college football, it's to see something really, really interesting. But the two guys that Nick Saban is looking at to step up here in the loss of Waddle behind Devontae Smith and John Mechie, Slade Bolden, and the true freshman Javon Baker.
I was running down by request the Heisman Trophy race, which is of no concern to Nick Saban or anybody that wants to win football games for this team or any other. But I don't know of a team that would have more candidates in Alabama, which will probably hurt anyone vying for the win. But my goodness gracious, in terms of playmakers, they're all over the place. Najee Harris already has 14 touchdowns, and that's after getting off to a slow start in terms of number of carries and rushing yards in the first few games. This season that Mac Jones is turning in, I think that people are starting to catch up with how well this young man is playing, and not just discrediting it as a wide receiver in system creation. That he's just playing that well at 79% and just making all the throws.
And I go back to, once again, Mark, I have seen this young man, Mac Jones, since he's been at the program, going back to 2017, his freshman year. He could have easily went to Kentucky or any other school, but he chose to come to Alabama because he wanted that pressure, he wanted that fight, he wanted that competition, and he came to a program where Alabama had already had an established quarterback in Jalen Hurts, and of course, he came into a signing class in 2017 that had the heralded Tua Tagovailoa, but for Mac Jones, it didn't matter. He still wanted to come to the University of Alabama, and here's a guy that played a high school football at the Bowles School in Jacksonville, Florida, under the late, great Corky Rogers, of whom he won national championships under Coach. He won state championships under Coach Rogers. So he gets to Alabama. Doesn't come with a lot of hype. Doesn't come with a lot of bells and whistles behind his name. But he hits the ground running. He puts his nose to work, and this was a guy that was perfecting that deep ball as a freshman running the scout team. I can remember a story that Jared Maiden, former Alabama safety, told me about how Mac Jones would be throwing deep balls to Terrell Shavers at practice, and Coach Saban took one look at Mac Jones and said, "Hey, stop throwing it deep all the time." And Mac Jones looked at his head coach and said, "Well, Coach, tell your defense to make me stop." And for a young man to go toe-to-toe there with Coach Saban and that type of throwing smack at the coach after the coach has thrown some smack at you, at that moment I kind of knew that Jones had the ability to run this offense, and absolutely he needed an opportunity to kind of showcase that, and he got it down the stretch last year when Tua suffered first the ankle injury against Tennessee, and then the hip injury following that against Mississippi State. Jones got his chances there, and game by game he got better and better and better, and ended the season with a whole lot of confidence. And now this year you are starting to really see, with the full off season he had with Steve Sarkisian and going over some things with him and the playmakers he has around him, but the confidence that Jones has himself to stretch the field, to shake off bad plays, to get back up, keep throwing the football. I had spoke with 3 of his quarterback coaches back home in Florida, and they all talked about this guy has all the potential in the world to do what Joe Burrow did from the 2019 season. Now, of course, Burrow already has the numbers and the notoriety and what have you, but they were telling me, Jones's quarterback coaches, that he has those same type of tendencies to put up those same type of numbers. And so far through 5 games, he has been outstanding.
Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama joining us to break down the Tide 31-point favorite at home against Mississippi State. Stephen, I hate to back us up in the conversation. I should have asked you this when I brought up the Waddle injury, but it just hit me that 25 catches, 23 yards per catch, 4 touchdowns. Okay, I believe that Alabama has the best wide receiver core in the country. There are some great ones out there, but I believe Alabama's the best at full strength. So it's easy to dismiss the injury to a certain extent to say Jones throws it 30 to 35 times a game. Devonta Smith needs his throws, and John Mechie and some backs out of the backfield, the tight end position, on and on and on. He only gets the ball so much anyway, and they're so deep at the position, they're really not going to miss him. And I've heard that thrown around a little bit. But on the other hand, when we're talking about special players, gifted players to that degree, even if it's only the one touch, especially when they get to the elite competition, the one touch, the 2 touches, that where even though they have so many weapons on that offense, he's just that extra gear. I got to think that could be missed.
And it will be, just due to the fact that when you look at Jalen Waddle, and Coach Saban said it himself, you can't replace a young man of that type of caliber and of that type of talent, especially with the type of stress and frustration and fear he puts in the mind of a defensive coordinator and defensive players, because you have to be aware of where number 17 is at all times. Part of the reason why Devonta Smith is as dominant as he is, and he's a big-time player in his own right, but that fear of he wears 17 makes Devonta Smith even better. And that fear of where is 17 makes John Mechie even better. And the fear of where is 17 makes other players in that team that much better, because Waddle draws so much attention. He draws so much eyeballs. He draws so much focus, not just on offense, but also on special teams. When you discuss punters and kickers, it's, do we kick the ball out of bounds? Do we kick the ball end over end? Do we kick the ball around him? We can't kick the ball to him because he's a big play waiting to happen. And then, of course, the gunners on kick return and punt return, they have to ask themselves, do we run right at Waddle? Because if we run straight at him, he can sidestep us or go around us. It's a big play just waiting to happen. So, absolutely, you can't replace that type of creativity on the field because of the amount of stress, fear, frustration. You have to just single-handedly prepare for Waddle because of that type of gear that he has. What Alabama can do at this point, Mark, is trying to see how many guys do we have that can kind of sort of cushion the blow to not make the pain as bad.
Stephen, I've got to hit you up on the defense because the alarmists were at full throttle after the Ole Miss game, of course. And if we could have heard them at halftime of the Georgia game following the Ole Miss game, and then at halftime after giving up 24 points, I'm sure that had that continued against the Bulldogs, my goodness. But of course, they pitched the shutout in the second half against Georgia. And then they turned in a decent game against Tennessee by all accounts. So how does this defense look at this point? What is being said about the defensive players? You talk to these guys a few times a week, especially considering that Lane Kiffin was the architect of the team that gave them the most fits. And now Mike Leach is obviously the guy on the other sideline coming up this week.
It's a different league of practice here, Mark. We know what Mike Leach is. He is going to throw the ball all over the field. That's the mindset he has. That's the persona that he brings to the table. He is going to want to put the ball in the hands of KJ Costello and say, young man, throw the ball all over the field. And this is a huge week for the Alabama secondary. And in particular, the two safeties, Daniel Wright and Jordan Battle, of whom they have got to really sort of grow up. In this matchup, you look at Jordan Battle, the sophomore. This is his first year, calling plays in the safety position against Tennessee. He had some moments where the freshman for the Volunteers, Jalen Hyatt, ran right by him for big plays. So he's going to be able to have better eye discipline. He's got to get that leverage on wide receivers, play the hash, play the markers, and play that lower third of the field. But not only just him, for Daniel Wright, it has been a feast or famine type season for Daniel Wright. He's either making a huge play or he whips on the play and the opposition gets the huge play off of that. So it's been a serious consistency issue with the Wright. He has talent, but at times you wonder, where's the consistency and the positive consistency when it comes to him. I would like to see Alabama work more of either the freshman Brian Blanche, who's kind of that highlight safety, it's the mix there, in replacement of Daniel Wright, or DeMarco Helms, who's a sophomore, at that free safety spot right there. So to me, this is a very different week just due to that Mike Leach is going to want to throw the football with KJ Costello and the weapons that the Bulldogs have. So for the inside linebacker position, that being Dylan Moses and Christian Harris, and an Alabama secondary, but the goal this week in practice has been eye discipline. Don't get fooled by what's going on in the backfield. Keep your discipline on the play that you have to defend. Keep your discipline on the player that you're defending, playing the football, eye discipline, having the right leverage, taking the right angles, but most importantly, Mark, playing that your side of the field and not getting sidetracked has been the biggest thing this week in practice, having that discipline in the aerial passing attack that the Bulldogs have.
Love it, Stephen. Thanks for dropping by. Stephen Smith, touchdownalabama.com. Please join him right there. And of course, their YouTube show. So Stephen, one more time for us this week to let everyone know when they can catch you live.
They can catch me live on the YouTube on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, Mark. 6 p.m. Central Time, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We did not go live tonight just due to some inclement weather in the area. Hopefully everybody's staying safe out there. I myself am safe at home at this time, so did not go live tonight due to the weather. But typically Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 6 p.m. Central Time, you can catch In My Own Words on YouTube for Touchdown Alabama Magazine.
All right.
Back live on Friday.
Very nice. God bless you, sir. We appreciate you stopping by. Appreciate the insight.
Absolutely. You take care, Mark.
Our man, Stephen Smith, Touchdown Alabama. Again, this is SEC Live. We cranked this up 3 weeks ago, or more specifically, 2 weeks ago. This would be the third edition. You can help us a number of ways. You can contribute in the Super Chat. You can contribute to Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal. Just look up Mark Rogers TV. You can smash that like button. You can go to my last 10 videos and like them as well. You can do all those things. They all help build the channel, catch the vision of what we're doing here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. I am not Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama because I'm the graphics guy as well. Let's get that taken care of. All right. And also you can see on the scroll at the bottom of the screen, Christmas is coming. I'm usually not thinking like that, but when I know that I've got an Amazon link that you can use to buy your Christmas presents and anything else you purchase, then that makes me think, hey, it's Christmas. Let's push the Amazon link. Go to the Amazon link. It's in the description section of all the videos. Go to any of the videos, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Grab that Amazon link. Keep it somewhere on your laptop or somewhere that it's going to be accessible when you do your shopping. It's the same exact shopping experience. Forget the product that you see when you open the link. Just use that link and then shop away. And it's going to help us build the channel here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. All right. Of course, the LSU Tigers, a bit of a rocky start to the 2020 season. Righted the ship in a big way in what many had targeted as a potential upset with South Carolina in town as a 7-point underdog. But Mr. TJ Finley got a hold of the Gamecocks and took them down along with the rest of the bunch there on offense in an impressive offensive showing. We've got Lon Phillips Sullivan on the line from LSU Odyssey to break it down. Lon, how you doing tonight?
Doing good, Mark. What's up, man?
What is up? I'm telling you, we're getting ready for another college football weekend, and we are slammed with information and all sorts of stuff that we're doing today. How are you?
Oh, it's been crazy for LSU. It was just a return to, some type of normalcy, winning. That, Orgeron is now 12-0 after defeat in his LSU career. I actually think that might be in his head coaching career, actually. But it was just fantastic, starting a true freshman against South Carolina. Just some kind of, some things up in the air, some uncertainty. But TJ Finley showed everything we believed he could. He was a powerhouse brick house, 17 of 21, 265, 24 yards rushing, another rushing touchdown, 2 touchdowns in the red zone on third down to Terrace Marshall, 13 first down completions, 5 third down completions. He was electric. He had half of the third down conversion completions that Miles Brennan had through 3 games. So, I mean, that says a lot. For what Steve Ensminger did on that first drive, just a huge statement of what that guy is all about. I think we can end the Joe Brady talk right now, that Joe Brady was responsible solely for that offense. That game, that performance with a freshman quarterback, if that didn't prove it, you're just not paying attention to college football. You just don't know what you're watching. Steve Ensminger is the best offensive coordinator in college football. His record indicates that. His record proves that. And so is the performances of now a few different quarterbacks, including a freshman. It just was fantastic. We got the running game going. It was high octane. I've heard your Auburn analyst talking about how Dari Rosenthal is going to be a big loss for us because him being our supposed starting left tackle. I'm going to tell you right now, Cam Wire is an 150% improvement from Dari Rosenthal. Just a complete turnaround. Almost, I think it was 6.5 yards per carry on average, more than what we were seeing from Dari Rosenthal. It was a joke. Cam Wire was fantastic. I love seeing that guy at left tackle. Him and Ed Ingram, the return of Ed Ingram at left guard was huge for LSU's running game. Just pedal to the metal, and it really helped TJ Finley settle down. But then again, I have to step back as well and say that passing game was high octane without that running game. Finley was uncorking it. He's probably going to be starting against Auburn this week. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. He's starting against Auburn this week. There's no way that they're going to throw Miles Brennan out there. But quarterback controversy? I don't know about that. What do you think, Mark? Do you think there's a quarterback controversy at LSU?
I don't necessarily think there should be. I did not see the game on Saturday night. It's still on my DVR. I DVR about 18 games on Saturday, but I didn't get to it yet. But I would like to see Finley play for sure. We're going to continue to analyze South Carolina. We're going to continue to preview Auburn, but we're going to honor the Super Chat contribution from Drizzle. Nice. Or J Rizzle Drizzle. I think that's probably it. J Rizzle Drizzle. We appreciate you stopping by with the LSU question here. We'll go that route with it, and appreciate the Super Chat contribution. And the question would be concerning the former BYU football commit, now LSU Tiger Siaki Ika, entering the transfer portal. Now, this just came down, I think, just in the last 5 or 6 hours. Do you have any beat on that?
Yeah, that was actually something early this morning. We were told about Apu Ika. He's, I actually watched him play live a few times here at East High here in Salt Lake City. Same thing with Sony Fanua. This really sucks. It's sad to see Apu Ika go into the transfer portal. He looks to be gone. He is officially put in his papers. The only thing I can add to this that may be a huge detail, I think it's a big clue, because Coach Orgeron, he's the most transparent coach in college football. If you're paying attention, read between the lines, you have your experience, you do your research, you'll know what's going on. He said this about Apu Ika after the Mississippi State game. He said, this is the only guy he talked about individually. He didn't even talk about Damone Clark, and Cordell Flott, who allowed like 4 touchdowns himself. He singled out Apu Ika, saying how disappointed he was in his performance. I think that did not sit well with Apu. He was benched, it seemed, for Vanderbilt most of that game. That was when the question came in from the media was, why didn't we see Apu out there? Missouri as well. He didn't really play much in that game either. And I think just seeing, Jaquelin Roy, freshman, taking his spot, things like that, maybe it pushed him over the edge and he's gone into the portal. It's a weird year, Mark. I really can't say what's going on with Apu, because he was a Tiger through and through, man.
Yeah, and just looking at the numbers, which from a defensive tackle position don't tell you a whole lot, but he was obviously on the field playing. He's had a sack this year and 5 tackles. Our moderator, Cheryl, has all sorts of work to do tonight. She's trying to just keep up this live chat, keep it clean, and keep everybody in a good place talking football. So let's do this for Cheryl, everyone. Let's stick to football and not delve into other areas of life as much as possible. So we appreciate it. Trash talk all you want, in a very nice way, in a rivalry kind of way. And we'll all have a lot of fun here. We got Lon Philip Sullivan on the line from LSU Odyssey to break down the Tigers. So I'm going to, you served it to me, and I'm going to just serve it right back to you with not much of a response on the Finley-Brennan possible controversy. Compare the two players. Now that you've seen Finley on the field in an SEC game against a decent defense, how would you compare and contrast Brennan and Finley?
Brennan, he's going to be uncorking those missiles. He's got the arm, the long range, rifle arm. It's a howitzer. I mean, he's been uncorking it, but at the same time, with that injury, could be limiting his biggest strength, which is passing out of the backfield. At the same time, he showed a lot of new wrinkles to his game, some escapability, some things that people were doubting he could do, some pretty good runs with his legs. But TJ Finley, this guy's very interesting. He makes a defense respect a lot more things than Miles Brennan does. He makes a defense respect his feet, for one thing, but it's almost like it's because he's so new to the scene that people don't really have any tape on him or really know what he can do with this LSU offense. I've seen him in action with this LSU offense in scrimmages and practices. This guy has just as much chemistry as Miles Brennan. It's crazy to say, but I'm saying it right now. He was just throwing catchable pass after catchable pass after catchable pass. In fact, I will say, a few little details here. Miles Brennan, even though he's making these gutty long-range throws, I would often see the receiver have to kind of tilt back just a little bit right here. And that can be all the difference in a big game where you're just having to go back a little bit here instead of being led into that corner, led kind of into space, away from the hit. There's a lot of times Brennan was just throwing guys right into hits. Then again, he didn't have the same offensive lineup formation with Cam Wyatt, left tackle, with Ed Ingram. He was injured for I think the last few plays of Vanderbilt and all of Missouri, which is the game that Brennan got hurt in. We haven't seen him with that type of protection yet. Maybe with that protection, Brennan has a whole different game. Maybe he shows a lot of different running to his game. Maybe he shows more escapability, more pocket presence. But at the same time, TJ Finley, he's a hot commodity. Everybody, LSU fans love this guy. They are all over this dude. I don't know why he has been such a big time fever dream for LSU fans, but he's just such a nice kid. But the talent is there. They've seen this guy for so many years at Ponchatoula High, 72 combined touchdowns, 58 through the air. I mean, this guy, he's not just a running quarterback or whatever you might stereotype him as. This guy is a howitzer for an arm as well as Miles Brennan. We do have a quarterback controversy on our hands, whether we like it or not. Can we take the job from Miles Brennan for getting injured? Are we going to Alex Smith him with Colin Kaepernick? I don't know about that. I don't think Coach Orgeron's going to be doing that. I don't think he's going to be taking that job for Miles Brennan. What does that say when you just would fly in the face of 3 years of loyalty, no transfer, sits behind Burrow, watches Burrow, do all of that while he has to sit there and take it, and then he has the chance. He puts up 400-yard games. He sets LSU records that Joe Burrow didn't. He was 5 yards and I think 2 interceptions off of Joe Burrow's numbers through 3 games in 2019. And yet take the job and give it to TJ Finley, a freshman? I don't know, man. I don't know about that. It's a sticky situation either way you look at it. If he goes with Brennan, we lose big time. Does everyone say you should have went with a hot hand? What were you thinking, Coach O? Here's the thing, Mark. I'm getting sick of the Coach Orgeron criticism, and I'm hearing it a lot from LSU fans lately. Guys, get in gear. Have some patience with the best damn coaching staff in the country who just delivered the greatest of all-time team ever. Have a top 5 recruiting class already with most of our biggest targets still on the charts, and you're going to be destroying this coaching staff? Some of the reactionary stuff from LSU fans lately, Mark, I got to address it. You guys need to calm down.
Well, I certainly don't agree with that. I think it was easy to see for anyone that despite the remaining talent on the roster, you just can't rid the roster of that kind of just combination talent and experience in big games and not have some huge ramifications.
Of course.
I will say, though, it's going to be interesting to see if that 2019 season was a complete aberration. And I mean, whether we're sitting here 5 to 10 years from now and Coach O's had a decent run at LSU, but it was 9-3, 9-3, 9-3 over and over and over. And 2019 was this pinnacle. Or if they bounce back and they're continuing to challenge Alabama and Georgia for the SEC.
That's what it's about, Mark. That's what it's all about. Any LSU fan who's carrying on with this defeatist vibes about recruits like Sage Ryan, and that's really more what I'm talking about, Mark, is some of the online stuff I saw about in reaction to Sage Ryan. But a lot of this stuff, they're not really focusing on the big picture. LSU's offense, and for specifically the quarterback position, in just 2 years has evolved further than the program has in the last 40 years combined.
Sure,
that's a joke. That's a quantum leap that can't even be. It's outrageous. Defensively, LSU will get back to what we usually do. There's no problem there. If we have to make a coaching change, that's fine. We're still pulling in the best defensive recruits in the country, and we're still going to continue to do so. The thing is, it's how you use that depth, when you use that depth. And some of these coaches right now need to understand, some of the specifics of these players a little bit more, get to know some of these younger players and their strengths, because I feel like there's a lot of holes in this team where some of these young players could fill that gap.
Okay, Lon, you ready to dive back into the live chat here? We got another super chat contribution from Jay Rizzle Drizzle. He's got another question for you here. I love LSU, but the linebackers are playing terrible. Is this a Pelini deal or just pure talent? They look slow to the point I'm trying to make them run faster, though my TV while yelling at it.
Hey, man, you're not alone. Okay, here's the truth here. Okay, the 3-4 to the 4-3, that transition was a lot more difficult than we thought it would be. And Damone Clark has specifics to his game that were a lot more pleasing to the eye when in a 3-4, because he has that extra linebacker to help him. We've come to see that he has a huge lack of pace, which is stunning in a 4-3. And in a 4-3 defense at the linebacker position, if someone does not contain on that edge, either a DE or a linebacker, and someone just completely screws up that responsibility, then you've got a 20-yard gain on your hands. Behind them, if the safety has screwed up, which they have a lot of the times, then it's a touchdown. And we've seen a lot of that with the 4-3 and the transition from the 3-4 to the 4-3. Damone Clark, I feel like, it's sad to say, I gotta say he is the most disappointing player of the season so far. I hate to say this because he's such a great young man, and he represents everything you want from an LSU Tiger. It is so alarming how slow he's been to react to certain situations. Micah Baskerville came in. He's not as big as Damone. I don't know how well, he was just completely mowed over a few times last year by Najee Harris on the goal line when Micah had a few great chances to get Najee in the backfield, actually. So that's the thing we're trying to figure out here. Are we going to trade Damone's girth for Micah's speed just to at least give us a chance on those plays? But then when we get down to the goal line, I kind of want to see Damone back in that position because he's such a great run stuffer. The problem with the linebackers is where they're positioned. And I said it before the season. I wanted to see Jacoby Stevens at linebacker. I wanted to see him at either Sam linebacker or Mike. Either have him run the show or have him be that run stuffer who actually, you give him a little bit more responsibilities. Maybe he can suck back into coverage. Maybe he can even be a nickel at times. He can cover that, shut down the flat. We could use Jacoby Stevens a lot better, I feel, as well, because he is a liability in coverage and has been exposed as such. But LSU's problems have on defense have completely been down to the safeties and linebackers. So that question is absolutely 100% correct.
And one of the big reasons why we have Lon on and guys like him is to clarify what's going on with the team from game to game. As I catch the big games, I watch as much college football as possible. But you got Damone Clark leading the team in tackles with 29. So does it look on the stat sheet like he's doing the job?
That's the thing, man. Football stats are so misleading.
Yes.
I mean, when you watch the game, Here's the thing.
especially on defense.
Exactly. You're making a lot of tackles after 15, 20 yards, blown coverages, blown assignments. Like, okay, you made the stop when the guy, 42 yards down the field. Damone, he recovered a fumble as well. Like he has put up a lot of numbers. He's had some sacks. He's had some tackles for loss. He's done some great things. Todd Harris, he forced a fumble. He has an interception, but it doesn't mean a damn thing if you can't, if you break contain every time. Because when you break contain, there's just 60 yards down the field. I mean, it's too easy. And when you're talking SEC offenses, it doesn't matter if it's Ole Miss, Miss State, as we found, Missouri. I mean, they'll light you up.
Alex King, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Can you see the comments from where you are, Lon? Your fans are coming out of the woodwork here. Got Alex King, who says Lon has genuine LSU knowledge, true LSU journalist.
Hell yeah.
That coming from Alex King. And then we got Cheryl, who's our moderator, says, I like this Lon guy from LSU.
Thank you, Cheryl. Woo!
And Cheryl's a Buckeyes fan.
Hey, you know what? I got Ohio State ties in my family. I got family from Ohio. So you know what? Joe Burrow's an Ohio guy. I'll take it. I'll take some Ohio love any day. I mean, Corey Kiner. We got Corey Kiner's mom to subscribe to our website. Everybody, awesome. Janine Whitehead not only did an interview with us, but hey, if LSU Odyssey is good enough for her, the mother of Corey Kiner, who's a touchdown machine, it's good enough for you, baby.
Well, Lon, I got to say, when I bring you on here, I'm expecting, and you always deliver, a very optimistic and a very energetic approach, and the verbiage is exceptional, as you know from the times that I've told you that the nicknames and just the way you spin a phrase is just phenomenal. So this is what I'm going to say, because I try to play devil's advocate and try to bring you back a little bit.
Yeah.
This Auburn game coming up, I know you're confident, I would guess, but what are the concerns in playing Auburn? Because this should be a great game.
The concerns, I really don't have any, actually. I think our defense is going to have no problem against Bo Nix. Both Stingley and Eli Ricks allowed 0 yards together from 6 total attempts, a pick 6. They're just completely shut down. I mean, yeah, you look at the stats, 6. Oh, maybe they're going away from them. No, they weren't. They were forcing just people, the quarterback to look away at the last second, and then we're sacking that dude. We're leading the SEC in sacks, by the way. BJ Ojulari, who we did a post-game interview with after his sack trick last game, he is an absolute freak. The Nigerian Prince, he's going to get another few sacks on Bo Nix. Auburn got lucky. They got away with a few here by the refs. And you know what? LSU Auburn is always interesting. It's always a crazy, crazy game, Mark. But here's the thing, man. Bo Nix is not who they thought he was. Derek Stingley is still pissed that this dude won SEC Freshman of the Year, and he's going to take it back, whether that's through a pick 6, whether that's through allowing nothing on that side, whether that's through a corner blitz. I would love to see Stingley come in on a corner blitz, just something electric like that. Like, let's get this going. Auburn have no fans in that stadium. I mean, LSU fans will probably come in there and take that place over for all we know. Gus Malzahn, you've been getting away with it for too long. Here comes another 7-loss season. LSU's coming to Jordan Hare, and we're going to rip your hair out.
Well, considering Gus Malzahn's never had a 7-loss season, I don't know that another one's coming on, but I get your point there. They have been hanging on by a string. The officials have been very kind to Auburn this year. They've given them a game against Arkansas and against Ole Miss. And when I say given them, the questionable calls that led to a very, very narrow Auburn win in both of those games. They are very close to being a 1-4 football team. And as you mentioned,
exactly,
quarterbacks always get the favored status. I get it. But just because you came into the league, and Bo Nix, a true freshman, it's difficult to play in this league. It's the best league in America as a true freshman. So, yeah, he had his ups and downs. But Derek Stingley, you're talking about arguably the best cover corner in the country. Why is he not the freshman of the year? Like, it's not even close. You're talking about like an average SEC quarterback against arguably the best cover corner in college football.
Especially when that cover corner made a huge game-changing interception right before halftime in that game. When Auburn, they should have, I mean, they had a chance to beat us there. I mean, the game was not as close as that final score will say.
Sure.
You know, it was 23-14. They get a last-second touchdown. You know what I'm talking about. But here's the thing. Bo Nix throws that pre-halftime pick. Stingley goes up there, high points the ball. That right there should have been the decider for me. And it's like, you know, I know the Knicks family have some strings that they can pull in the SEC, but that was a little blatant. That was a little, come on.
Always love the conversation with Lon Phillips Sullivan. Please join him for some insightful reporting on LSU football. They cover it from so many different angles. I've checked it out on a number of occasions. LSU taking on Auburn this week on the Plains. It's one of those long-standing SEC rivalries that usually, maybe not necessarily this year, but typically a big factor in the SEC Western Division race. Auburn, a 3-point underdog to LSU this weekend. Lon, we appreciate you stopping by.
Mark, one last thing. I got some people in Gretna, Louisiana right now, some friends. They're going through Hurricane Zeta right now. They're hanging on by a thread without power. We love you guys. Adrian Perkins, AD, my man. He is my content supervisor. He is someone who keeps me going when stuff is tough. He is someone when I'm frustrated, he says, hey, you know what? Keep pushing, baby. He's someone who we keep regifting each other LSU stuff. This is what he got me. These LSU bands right here. I wear them every day. Reminds me of that man. Be safe, brother. We love you. Everybody in Louisiana, we're with you again. It doesn't matter how many hurricanes it comes. Louisiana's still here, and it's still going to be there, baby. Also, Landon Jackson, we love you. Get better soon. We are with you throughout your recovery. Thank you, brother. Mark, have a great night, my man. Go Tigers.
Appreciate that so much. I will tack on to that. Certainly, when I'm here involved in what I'm doing the entire day, not familiar with or in tune with what's going on weather-wise across the country until our guy Stephen Smith said something at Touchdown Alabama about the treacherous weather there in the Southeast. So yes, our best well wishes to everyone, and our prayers go out to everyone who's encountering any tough weather conditions and inclement situations out there. Stay safe, do all the right things, and our prayers and our best are with you. Lon, again, we appreciate it. Enjoy the game this weekend.
Absolutely, brother. Win or lose, go Tigers, my man. Mark, we'll see you on the other side, brother.
That's right. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. That's it for our SEC show on Wednesday nights. We would love to get this past 100 here soon. We had about 52 on the line. 55 was the high this afternoon. My goodness. As soon as I heard about the news of the Wisconsin football activities being shut down, I came on immediately. I think it just must be topic related. I came on immediately. No notifications went out. And we had about 180 on the line very quickly to talk Wisconsin football this afternoon. We followed that up with our Ohio State Live. We've been live since pretty much nonstop since noon. And I can tell you that when we haven't been live, I've been recording segments on Auburn, Texas A&M, Michigan. And so be looking out for those videos as we get you prepped and set and ready for week 9 of college football right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Tomorrow, let's see off the top of my head, we've got Nebraska live at 6, Miami live at 8. So again, lock it in here. Please subscribe, hit the bell for the notifications. Shop Amazon. James left us a great note in the live chat that I posted on the screen concerning his experience with the Amazon shopping there. So with Christmas coming, when you shop Amazon, grab the link in the description section of any of the videos and just please put it somewhere that is going to trigger when you go to shop. Just use that link. It's the same exact shopping experience. It doesn't cost you a penny extra. It's exactly the same. And you help us build the channel. Mineral Tim 79. No, we do not have Scott Frost tomorrow night. That would be phenomenal if we did. So yes, as Cheryl points out here, if nothing else, hit the like button. Even if you disagree with my analysis of college football, please hit the like button if you enjoy what we do here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Best discussion, debate, and analysis. That's our aim. That's our goal. That's our mission every day. Cheryl, you can take a break now. Thank you so much for all your help in moderating this conversation all by yourself. Thank you so much, Cheryl. You are the best. Mineral Tim, Jordan was in here. David Greenshield, Byrick. I'm going to miss so many. Curveball, you guys are amazing. John Sarian, Uncle Lou stopped by as well. Quentin Lee, good to see you. Lord, good to see you as well. We've got who else in the live chat? Alex King, thank you so much for the super chat contribution, as well as I'll botch up his name if I don't see it here. Master of Dreams, thank you so much as well. And everybody else who's on the line. Big Ed, we see you there. And keep it locked in here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Check out the videos. We've got Texas A&M, really good conversation this afternoon on Texas A&M football. Auburn as well, a breakdown of the game. And Michigan and Miami live tomorrow night at 8. Nebraska at 6. By request, Nebraska. We actually have a sponsor that said, Mark, we will sponsor a Nebraska show. And I said, well, I don't have anybody to talk Nebraska football. But if all hell breaks loose and I don't have anybody to come on here, I'm going to watch the Nebraska game every week. I'm going to analyze it. I will be here to talk Nebraska football on Thursday nights at 6 o'clock Eastern time, all by my own lonesome, with, of course, you right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We'll see you next time. Thank you, SEC Dog. Thank you, Quentin. Thank you, everyone. And again, Cheryl, appreciate it.